Clemson fans are furious, and they should be. We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 The Roar, the Clemson flagship station. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're an everydayer, thank you so much. You know how we do it here. A big salute to you. Monday through Friday, exclusive Clemson content right here. And if you're new to the show, welcome in. Hopefully you enjoy it and you'll hit that like and subscribe button because you know how the algorithms work. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Continuing our discussion on what Clemson can do during the bye week because they don't have a game coming up this weekend. And the worst of all worst happened, could happen, did happen. Syracuse wins 34-21. Clemson had really no control of the game. Clemson looked terrible on both sides of the ball, and they seem to be just overall getting worse to the point where you really don't know where to go from here because if you try to fix one area, well, there are 22 other areas or 21 other areas that you are concerned with. Every single position is really up for grabs when it comes to being concerned about what they're going to do going forward. Clemson is now 1-3 overall for the first time ever as a Dabo Swinney head coach team, and fans are reasonably and justifiably furious. And today, I wanted to talk about all those reasons why they should be. The numbers, when you look at it, don't truly tell the story. If you pull up the ESPN stats or the stat broadcast stats or whatever area you like to look at, Clemson actually outgained Syracuse 503 yards to 433 yards. So there were obviously opportunities there to be able to move down the field. Now, the one thing is the third downs were terrible. Clemson was 3 of 13 for third down, and Syracuse was 3 of 15 for third down. Both teams really wasted a ton of opportunities. One thing, though, is that Syracuse, I give them a little slack because they lost their quarterback to a season-ending injury, and if he was still out in the field, you got to think they would have scored over 40, maybe even close to 50 on Clemson because that's just the way the feeling of the game was going. Clemson only had 2 red zone trips while Syracuse had 4. They were 4 for 4 with 24 points off of it. And Clemson was just, 2 for 2. So thankfully they were able to get points, but it still was not enough. And the frustrations are starting to mount for Clemson and the fan base because, when you go and look at these film reviews and a lot of people say, Morgan, where's all your charts and stuff? And I just really not interested. I can't stand to watch this team play play in live. I can't stand to watch them play in a replay. It really is that frustrating for me. If you're a fan that likes to go back and review the film like you're like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you go back, make it easy on yourself. Go watch Eric McLean's review of the game, of the past couple of games with Clemson. And it is, honestly, it might be to a point where they don't allow him to have the all 22 anymore, because it's just obviously blatantly clear. This is a complicated game, but it's not a complicated game. I mean, it is still a sport. It is still a game. And so you can make it more complicated, but there's still a lot of basics and fundamentals that most fans understand and can see even in the stadium. They don't have to be a 10-year head coach, a 20-year head coach, a 40-year head coach, or even a player. You can see what's happening when you're in the stands. And that's what I think makes fans the most frustrated. When you see the quarterback hesitating on guys that are wide open, on easy reads, on what should be his first read, he doesn't seem to want to pull the trigger and actually throw the ball. It's almost as if he just does not trust himself. And so if he doesn't trust himself to pull the trigger on throwing the ball, why is he on the field? We're all seeing it. They obviously are seeing it. The experts, the former players, the film review guys, they're seeing it. You watch it as a fan and you know the ball, you know what's happening. And he's missing throws. Cade Klubnik is missing wide open throws. He's not throwing them on time, and he's not throwing them very accurately at all. And a lot of times, his adjustments and reads don't seem to match up with what's going on the field. He seems to pick players that are in double coverage or, throw to the side of the ball where the defense actually has more players than the offense. And so it really just does not make sense from a hesitation standpoint, doesn't make sense from a number standpoint. These are all things that fans know. You don't have to be some sort of genius, Bill Belichick out here, to see that he's not throwing balls on time and that he's not simply looking at the defense to see exactly where his best opportunities are on the field. And then you couple it with, that's where I start to lean more. Okay, I give a little bit of flack for Garrett Riley because his quarterback cannot be trusted, so I give a little bit of grace for him in that scenario. But where I don't give him so much grace is when it's 3rd down and 1, when it's 4th down and 1, and you're calling shotgun read or pass plays or, whatever it may be, you're not running the ball and you're trying to pull guards and pull tackles. I got to be honest with you. This whole guard tackle counter and pulls that he was known for doesn't work at this level. At least it doesn't work for the offensive line. I mean, how often do you see where the defensive end sees a pulling offensive lineman and they just follow them and just, there's the play right there. And all they did was have to follow right behind the offensive lineman. And it's almost like too easy on the defensive line that knows what they're doing. Maybe this is some Big 12 stuff that works then, but it's not working here in the ACC. And it really hasn't worked ever since he started being the offensive coordinator. But it gets more frustrating when you have a good running back. You know that he can run hard and get extra yardage, and he can typically break some big ones. He had another game. What have we seen from Adam Randall, yards per carry wise? 5.3, 5.3, 9.3, and then an 8.1 this last game. This is a running team. I don't even know why you're throwing the ball yet. You're losing games throwing the ball 60 times when you got a running back going 8 yards per clip. It makes no sense to me. Makes absolutely no, especially on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. And on 4th down, you were 1 of 5. 1 of 5. That makes no sense to me. So I'm really kind of frustrated with the play calling. I'm really frustrated with the quarterback. And we all can see it. This is not something that an expert you have to be an expert to know this. Offensive line too. I said this in last night's episode or yesterday's episode, but it's like they don't really want to block the guys right in front of them. If they do, they just barely touch them and they move on to the next guy. It's like they're getting paid more money for blocking somebody in the 2nd level than they are for the 1st level. The problem is those 1st level guys are making the plays. So block those guys first. Get those guys in the ground and then worry about the linebacker and the safety. I don't understand this whole dump the first line of defense to get to the 2nd and 3rd when you're giving up guys that are making plays. So the biggest frustration for me, and I think fans, again, no ball. They see bad football when they see it, And a big concern for me from the coaching staff is yet we're still hearing them come out to the podium and say, these are our guys. These are our starters. I don't see how you can do that going into a bye week being down 1 win and 3 losses on the season. Hey, we're going to continue to talk about the identity crisis for the offense and what they should be able to do going forward and what they should do during the bye week right here on Locked On Clemson. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply Move. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through most any season. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls, and you can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel the control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I like it because it helps me maximize my investments. You can see what the increasing savings rates are, what different options you have. You can review finances with your spouse and make sure that you're doing everything correctly, and then go take it to your financial advisor and take a look at it. It gives you a clear view of everything that you have. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. You know, I believe that the biggest thing for me is the quarterback and the responsibility for the team. And that's where I get a little bit concerned about where this team is heading into the bye week, because what we're hearing is that he's our starter, he's our starter, he's our starter. And as a fourth-year quarterback, a 3-year starter, on Saturdays, he looks anything but that. When you look at the stat sheet, 37 for 60, 37 for 60 passes, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. You think on paper, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, a 62% completion percentage really doesn't hurt him statistically at all. It's probably what you would want on paper, though. But when you see him in person and you see that they're struggling to score 14 points the majority of the game, and really didn't get 7 points until towards the end and it was over with, the problem is bigger than just having good stats on the stat sheet. He has to figure out what he's going to do to move forward, and it really falls on his responsibility. And if he cannot handle it, then they have to go to someone else. And if they can't go to someone else, like Christopher Vezina or someone on that roster that's going to run the plays the way that they're supposed to be ran, then why are any of them on the roster? And why are any of them? And if they are getting paid, why are any of them getting paid? If payment is the concern, that's also a problem with this roster and this coaching mindset. Is Cade getting paid too much money to fail? Is he getting paid too much money to be benched? Do you want to see a $2 million quarterback or whatever he is worth on the bench? I mean, at this point, he has progressively got worse, and he's not worth what you've been paying him. He's might be a great person. I don't know him as a person. He might be a great guy. He might be a great friend, great roommate, great teammate. But what we're talking about is a quarterback on a team that is not living up to expectations. And we know he has to be getting paid very good money. On critical downs, he's the last guy you really want to have the ball. At this point, it's where you would rather just run the ball with Adam Randall, who just became a running back this season. So, because he's the guy that you trust more, because at least he does what he's expected to do. Albeit he did have turnover. He did fumble the ball. and that's unfortunate, but I would rather give a little grace to somebody who's at 130 yards rushing than to somebody who is supposed to be a 4-year senior and be in control of this offense from top to bottom and doing things that just seem like he has no ownership. What we are seeing is that he's making his decision up pre-snap. I mean, it is abundantly clear by the amount of film we have now. Either he's making up his decision pre-snap himself, or they're just giving him one person to look at. I think it's a combination of both, but he really doesn't have more than one option in his mind or in the playbook. And he's not really adjusting to what the defense is showing him. And add that into the problem of not being very accurate, throwing balls over people's heads or throwing them in their feet. It is to the point where there is a crisis, and it starts with you don't know what you can build off of because your quarterback really takes 2 steps forwards and 3 steps back a lot of times. And so what I would say is you have to go with what your strengths are. Your weakness is letting Cade Klubnik decide everything. That's your weakness. You keep doing this to him. You keep making him read defenses and read defensive edges, and he's not doing it. So he's not doing it correctly. So you have to take that away from him. If you're not going to take him off the field, you have to take decisions away from him altogether. And you have to make this team into a running team. That's my opinion on it. They have proven that they can run the football, and you have to do it with a rotation. You can't just have Adam Randall out there. Honestly, you have to have a long conversation with the position coaches about rotations, because the rotations have been drastically shocking than we've ever seen in Clemson history. When have you ever seen massive substitutions on the defensive line like they've been doing this year? We saw it from the very first game. You'd have a whole starting lineup of defensive linemen, and then on the third down, they would change it to 4 completely different guys. It was absolutely a shock to the system to even try to do that. Why are you massively substituting guys on defense? Why are you refusing to substitute guys on offense? You've got Adam Randall there, and you never give Easy Omume any kind of runs. You never give Gideon Davidson any kind of runs. Let me show you who they gave runs to. Adam Randall, 16. Tyler Brown, 1. Peter Woods, 1. Okay, you're giving Peter Woods more runs than your actual running backs. And then Cade Klubnik got 4, right? And we don't know if those were, some of those could be just running for his life. But the biggest thing is they have to go to a true running team. That's what I feel like. And they have to get their offensive line bought into that as well, because the offensive line is in a lot of ways in shambles too, because, they're not keeping up any kind of protection consistently. All 5 guys are usually don't make the right call every single play. There's always one guy who you're like, man, why did he do that? Why did he miss that guy? Why did he barely touch that guy? Why did he leave that guy wide open to go to the guy behind him? Free rushers all over the field. Cade Klubnik doesn't help his offensive line either by not staying in the pocket. He backs up about 5 or 6 yards and then continues to back up. I have not seen one example of Cade Klubnik actually stepping up into the pocket and throwing off from behind one of his offensive linemen. So if they're not going to take him out of the game, if they're not going to put Christopher Vizina in, it's up to them. But if they're not, 1, why are those guys even on the field or on the team? But 2, if you're not, then you can't really give him a lot of opportunities to make critical decisions about where to throw the ball. Because what we're seeing is he picks where he wants to throw before the snap. And then if it happens to be a part where it's open, he doesn't really want to pull the trigger on it either. So fans are frustrated mainly by the lack of progression in this offense. We had a little bit of hope on the defense, but the defense is not immune to this either. The defense is progressively getting worse as well. I've never seen a Clemson football team, especially coached under Dabo Swinney, where both sides of the ball progressively get worse week over week over week. And that's why they need a bye week boot camp. And we'll talk about it in the third segment here on Locked on Clemson. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to play. There's prop bets, there's same-game parlay, there's jumping in on the live action, which I started doing this week. It's kind of cool to get into. It's quick, easy, fast to use, and you get your money very quickly so that you can continue to play throughout the week and see what you can get into. If you feel like you're kind of bored, don't know what to do, you're watching some of the games and want to add a little bit more to it, you can go on FanDuel and see what they have going on. You can also check out on their website. They have a great research site where you can see if you're maybe not as informed on some of the games, you can go check out some of the research they've done to help you out and make your decisions. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The bye week is not a rest week for this team. If they were 4-0, maybe. If they were 3-1, maybe even 2-2. But 1-3 cannot be a rest week. They have got to find out who they really are, who the players really are, who the coaches really are, who the leaders really are. Dabo's challenge to me is to figure out where it all went wrong. And I think he's doing the right thing so far by calling a players-only meeting with just him and getting in front of every single person on the team and just airing out anything that he has to say. And a lot of the players said it was a good meeting. But here's the thing. Dabo Swinney is the CEO of the program. And what we're seeing is player rotations aren't being made. Accountability is not being made. Guys are making mistakes and still starting every single snap, still not being rotated. And that is where the CEO, the head coach, has to go and do the Elon Musk. You know, when a department is not doing well, you have to go get your cot and you have to sleep in their offices until they fix it. You know, and then maybe the bottom 10% have to decide where else they're going to go from here, because you can't keep doing what you've always been doing and just hoping that things are going to get fixed. The team, as we're told, is not quitting. But the fans have to see visible changes, visible accountability. If a player consistently makes bad plays, bad blocks, at this point, we don't want the talented player out there. We don't want the 5-star out there. We don't want the $1 million guy out there. If they continue to make the same mistakes, we would be more happy to see them on the bench, because that's what accountability is about. The Clemson team has already lost 3 games. The ACC championship is out of the picture. The playoffs are out of the picture. The only game that anybody really cares about in the stadium is that the team does better week over week and that they beat the Gamecocks. That's really all you have left to look forward to, and that's the last game of the season. And the bowl game is just icing on the cake for maybe development of younger players, because this, of all seasons, is a season where you're probably going to have some attrition. And they need it, honestly. You hear a lot of times about how Dabo can't go to the portal because nobody's leaving. Well, let me tell you something. You're blind if you think that that's not the intention of what Dabo Swinney is doing for this team. He is purposely making sure that players are staying and are valued, and that's a great thing. But he's also keeping players around longer than they're actually helping the program move forward, you know? And so he has to make a decision. Are these players really able to continue the standard? And if they're not, they just can't be on the roster anymore. I mean, that's really it. Quitting or not, there's accountability. And maybe you don't kick them off the team because you have 105 guys. Maybe you can still afford to keep them on the team. But what you have to do is not let them start. You can't let them start. Just because you're talented doesn't give you the ability to just continue to make mistakes over and over and over and allow the team and basically not allow the team to where they can't trust you. We keep hearing about Tristan Smith has to earn trust. Well, I mean, what are these guys that are starters that constantly are starters and never get taken out of the game? How did they earn any trust to you? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, Tristan Lee and Blake Miller play bad a lot of times. How can you trust them to stay out there over and over and over and over? Are they just that much better than anybody else behind them? And if that's the case, then you are not properly evaluating your depth on your team. You're just hoping that your starters are going to be perfect in a team, in a league where it's all about development. You have nobody behind them that can rotate in at all. They're just that much better. It makes no sense to me. Cade Klubnik is not that much better than everybody else at this point. The offensive line, nobody on that offensive line is just that much better than everybody else. And even if they were worse, I think fans would respect benching guys who aren't playing well versus keeping them out there and saying, well, these are our guys and this is what we're sticking with, So the challenge for me, to Dabo, is that how is he going to hold the position coaches accountable? Because to me, when he comes out and he says, well, yeah, we needed to get more, we'd like to have more rotation on the running backs. Looked at it and Adam Randall was the only guy that got any snaps. Well, when you say that to me says you're the CEO and you're giving all control of player rotation to your position coaches. That's not a bad thing, but how are you trusting them? We're talking about trust all the time. Why don't we see Tristan Smith more? We always got to earn trust. Well, have your position coaches earned your trust to be able to basically not rotate anybody? How is that earning trust? Over rotating guys, not having them on the field at the right time. How is that earning trust from your head coach? If you're the position coach and you're making decisions about who's out on the field and it's all wrong, and they're admitting that it's wrong. So there has to be some sort of agreement here where they say, what we're doing is not working. It's great. Adam Randall has 130 yards. You lost the game. You never had control of the game. It's great. Cade Klubnik threw for 363 yards. You lost the game. You never had control of the game. Why? Your offense struggles to do anything, to have any kind of identity. Your defense is getting worse and not getting any sort of push up front and just playing straight up man on the outside with little to no over the top coverage. Something has to change. And what is that? Well, they have to go back to boot camp. They have to go back to fall camp. They have to figure out exactly who their starters are. I would say this: there's no starters on this team. Not one. They've got to stop calling people starters. Nobody on this team is worthy of a starting position right now. They've got to reset the entire team and say, okay, you've got 2 weeks to prove to me that you should be starting on this team. And if you're not going to in practice, and we're going to go hard at practice, and if you're not going to prove it at practice that you can be a starter, then guess what? You're just not going to be a starter. And we're going to be okay with a more talented guy sitting on the bench just because accountability is bigger and visible accountability is bigger than anything right now. You don't start holding people accountable to a high level if you're not already, which is suspect, then you're going to definitely lose the locker room because players behind the players aren't going to play hard if they know they're never going to get opportunities. Why would the running backs really try hard if they know they're not getting any opportunities anyway? So you're hurting the morale of the guys behind you by not giving them any kind of opportunities. So they've got to rotate better. Tristan Smith's got to get in the game. It is what it is at this point. What's weird to me is it feels as if you're on Clemson, it is an uphill challenge to become a starter for Clemson. Dabo does not like to give many snaps to freshmen. He brought in 15 freshmen. Rarely do you see any of them except maybe the top 3. Maybe you see them. Maybe. You really don't see them do anything significant. Mari Adams, not much. Braden Jacobs, not much. And Gideon Davidson, not much. Those were your top 3 guys of the class. So you telling me you brought in 15 new guys and you're not going to use them at all. So your entire recruiting class, the bulk of your new, fresh talent, you're not using at all. They're not ready. Either they're not ready or you're not willing to trust them, whatever trust really means. So at that point, you have no infusion of talent. Well, you do have a little bit, thankfully, because you went to the transfer portal with Will Helt and Tristan Smith and Jeremiah Alexander. Those got to be your infusion of talent. And if you don't use them, then you're just hurting the team overall. You got to use them. They got to be your infusion of talent, trust or no trust. And then you've got to start from square one and say, the rest of you got to figure out where you're going to start. You got to figure out if you really want to be on this team. And I hate to say, if you make one mistake, you get benched. I don't really like that attitude. But at this point, your expectations are at a high level and you're getting paid to do this job. So, maybe not one mistake, but 3 strikes, you're out and you need to sit for an entire quarter. I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, what's a win and loss at this point? Dabo says that as a Christian, winning is not that big a deal. And I agree with him. It's not that big a deal. So it's obviously not even going to turn this season around if they win out. So I would just say, forget wins and losses. I think the fan base just wants to see the team play better, and play like they actually know what they're doing and have the right guys out on the field that actually care to be out there. And even if everybody cares, have the guys that are at least not going to make any mistakes or at least going to try their hardest, to overcome their mistakes. And maybe nobody's perfect, but the starters that are out there making so many mistakes, it seems as if somebody else needs another opportunity after repeated chances. Again, maybe do a 3-strike rule. That's what I would say. What we know for sure, though, is you got some talented guys. You got to build around those guys, but you got to get them back into being bought into what's going on right now, because it's all over the place. It's like spaghetti against the wall, see whatever sticks. But they got to go back to basically boot camp, in my opinion. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. I really appreciate everyone sticking through. I know we still got a ton of views and listens over on the podcast, so I know you're still there with me. But I know it's a frustrating season for sure. And even still, as I mentioned, I'd rather go through a tough season as a Clemson fan than a great season as a Gamecock fan. And I wanted to let you know, it's another great moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview show. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview show only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Tuesday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Hey, that's it for this episode. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.